Good evening. This is your host, Dan Stafford, with the Midwestern Geek in Cali podcast / YouTube channel. And I am videocasting tonight from 42 Tardis Way here in lovely Temecula, California, summer's winter home. And it's a wonderful evening here. I'm just getting past a little bit of relaxing. Did a little school this afternoon. I'm now in Microsoft Server courses, learning Microsoft Server 2012, R2, and then little touches on Server 2008. And also early next year, I'll be diving into Microsoft Server 2016. I'm also playing with Microsoft Hyper-V and also VMware. A little bit of Linux here and there, and also Windows 10, as you know from my last episode, I certified on. So that's what's going on with me. The pressure's off a little bit. I managed to get my certs in time to keep my job. Now I have several more certs to do, and I'll be working on that. Meanwhile, in other news, LA Comic-Con is coming up in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today exactly. And I'm hoping to make it out there with Charles, so we'll be looking to get several interviews out there if at all possible. We'll see. I'll let you know as soon as I know if we can go out and get a nice batch of interviews and go around and take pictures and all that. You've seen Charles and I cover other conventions, and we're looking to do LA Comic-Con soon, hopefully. So knock on wood that we get approved for press passes and get to go. All right, that's one thing coming up. Also tonight, I'm looking forward to watching the season premiere of Supernatural, coming into season 13. So hopefully Sam and Dean are cruising the Black Chevelle around and chasing monsters, ghosts, and alternate universes, and bringing Charlie back home, and etc. For all of you that are Supernatural fans, I know it came on Thursday night, but we recorded it and we're just getting to watch it tonight. So very much looking forward to that. And then some tech news coming out. As some of you may have heard, Microsoft released a huge version update for Windows 10, and it started deleting user files. Well, that update's been pulled. However, I've run into another issue with several HP laptops regarding Windows Update. Apparently, I'm guessing that this is how it's happening, but I think Microsoft took the generic driver for certain HP laptops sound card, Realtek sound, out of their driver store. And I've been seeing multiple HP laptops come in. They all are models that start with 15-BS. And there's a string of numbers after that. But they've been coming in with no sound driver installed. So what we've been having to do as a fix for that is take them to the HP support website, let the HP website auto detect the model and serial number information off the laptop, download the appropriate drivers, and reinstall the sound drivers, and that gets it back working. So if you're running into an issue with an HP laptop with no sound recently, it's probably due to a Microsoft update. Also, watch out when Microsoft updates the driver for Wi-Fi cards. It can often, when the new driver is installed, it will blow out the Wi-Fi passwords that are saved, so you'll have to re-enter the password. That's fairly common with Wi-Fi driver updates, so don't be surprised if you see that happen. So I'm going to walk away from the camera for just a little bit here and grab myself a ginger beer because my throat's dry and I forgot to grab coffee and bring it out here. So as I'm walking away and grabbing that. You can have a nice view of my banner there. But I need something to keep my whistle wet while I talk. And I've come up with at school where I'm both an instructor and student. As a student, or I'm sorry, as an instructor, I have to do occasional little what they call tech bits. They're basically little lectures on basic technical things. I've done lectures on antivirus. I've done lectures on RAM, hard drive, solid state drives. I've done lectures on how to organize your bookmarks in Chrome and other browsers. Quite a few little basic things like that, because a lot of the students at our school are not studying IT, they're studying Microsoft Office. And we do have a lot of IT students as well, but probably the campus that I teach at is a majority Office students that are learning Microsoft Office, like Excel, PowerPoint, WordPress. Sorry, WordPress. I'm sorry, there's a WordPress issue on my mind, so that's kind of pending. So I mean Microsoft Word, actually. So one of the future discussions that I'm coming up with is one on why the on-off symbol, the power symbol for all your power buttons on your electronic devices has the particular shape that it does. If you look at it, it's like an O with a 1 stuck through it, right? If you look at the power symbol almost anywhere. Matter of fact, I think if you're on a Windows computer and you click the start button, you will see a little 0 with a 1 stuck in it for power. And that symbol actually represents binary code. And here's why. Binary is a code that it really transforms electricity into information. And here's the heart of how it does it. In binary code, a 0 is off. It also, if you were able to take a little tiny itty bitty voltmeter, little itsy bitsy microscopic nanoscale voltmeter, and jump in and read the voltage in a memory cell on a RAM chip, or on, well, hard drive's a little different because it's magnetic, but a RAM chip or an SSD, and you could read the voltage in a cell. The voltage in a cell with a 0 in it would be like 0 volts to 0.2 or 0.3 volts, whereas the voltage in a cell with a 1 in it would be more like 1.3 to 1.5 volts, somewhere around there. And then if you were to look at the voltages for a 1 on your motherboard, there'd be somewhere between 3.5 to 5 volts. And then a 0 would be like around 0 volts to 1.5 volts. But in either case, you have a high voltage for a 1 and a low voltage for a 0. On and off. Okay? On, off. Okay? 1, 0. It's fun. The way this camera is, it kind of like switches things on me. So left is right and right's left. So that gets me a little confused when I'm trying to do this. But basically, that's why your on-off switch looks the way it does. It represents binary 1s and 0s, which is high voltage for a 1, low voltage for a 0, on for a 1, off for a 0. And then when you string a bunch of binary on and offs together, they usually come in a series of 8 bits, which is a byte. Okay, 8 bits total, 8 either zeros or ones. And then the first bit is equal to 1 if it's on, 0 if it's off. The next bit doubles. It's equal to 2 if it's on, 0 if it's off. The next bit is double again, so that's 4. Double again, that's 8. Double again, that's 16. And the 8th bit would be 128 as you keep doubling. And so what you do is you take, say, the second bit is on, and the 7th bit is on. The 7th bit is worth 64. The second bit is worth 2. So you add those ones that are on or have ones in them together, and you get 66. So 0, 1, and then 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0 is worth 66 because it's the second bit and the 7th bit that are turned on. If you turn all of them on and they're all ones, it becomes 255 or 256, I'm sorry. So what they do then is convert the electrical on and off to a number value. And then they assign things like letters a number value. And A might be equal to 001, or something like that. A B might be equal to 2, and so forth. And punctuation marks and all that kind of stuff that make up language are actually given a number value. So they take those 8 bits and they can represent up to 256 different characters just with 8 bits alone. So that's really how they translate electricity into information. A series of on and offs, and they're assigned a value, a number value, and the numbers correlate in software to characters in, say, a document. It goes a lot deeper than that, obviously, but that's the basic gist of it. So when you look at a power symbol, you're looking at a direct representation of binary. And if you think about a power switch, it really has 2 states. Just like binary has 2 states, on or off, 1 or 0. And that's why your power switch looks the way it does. It's binary. It's on or it's off. And if you look at the power switch on the back of a power supply, or the power switch turns on my printer, almost anything but an old school lamp these days, the power switch looks like a representation of binary code 1 and 0. And that's how that came to be that way. So interesting little lesson there for you. Now I'm going to, pardon the glare from my glasses here, but I'm going to look up a couple more stories real quick. I know these things are crazy making and they pick up the glare from the computer screen, but I really can't read anything on the screen much without them anymore. So I kind of have to. So I'm going to bring up one of my other accounts here because I've got some stories saved for you. And let's see here. Okay. I am digging into one of my accounts here. Okay, So let's see if I can read this without glasses at all. I'm basically going to get the headlines. This one is off the Verge.com, and it's how Intel's ninth generation chips show the way forward after Moore's Law. Basically, what Moore's Law says is that every 2 years, the power of processors is going to double. Well, they're starting to hit a physical law. In how small they can make the electronics without overheating. And they're down to a few atoms now, and they can't really make things much smaller than that. They're working on the next size, but they've been at that for a couple of years, and that's why you see processors seem to have been stalled out with the Core i3, Core i5, Core i7, and the Intel versions. And they're looking to advance one more round in shrinking things down. Right now it's down to 14 nanometers, and they're looking to get it down to 10. But that's been taking them a while. They've been struggling with it, and it looks like they should be able to crack that within the next couple of years. But the other thing that they're doing is starting to pack more processors on the same chip. They're also working with maybe stacking processors, like multiple layers, stuff like that. So this is why you've got a Core i9 coming out. What it basically is doing is adding more cores so they can get more speed and more processing done on the same chip. I think the next real major advance in computing isn't going to happen until they come up with viable quantum computers, and that'll be a complete game changer. Things will really, really change. So right now, if you're looking for advances in technology and things that are really going to be game changing, think about things in terms of networking and connectivity, because there are some things coming down the pipe with connecting computers together and how fast they can talk to each other, connecting your mobile devices, that are just going to change the world and revolutionize the whole situation. It's going to make your connection almost always present. You'll almost never run out and not have a connection. There are a couple of different organizations trying to put constellations of satellite in low Earth orbit. Currently, satellite internet is really slow and laggy, and it takes forever to send out, well, forever in terms of electronics, to send out a request to the internet and get a response back. The reason why is the satellites are in what's called geostationary or geosynchronous orbit. They're 22,500 miles or so up, between that and 25,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. So if you think about it, you send an internet request up to a satellite, it's going almost 25,000 miles up to get up to the satellite from where you are. And then it's going almost 25,000 miles back down to the other point on Earth where it actually hits the internet coming from you. Then it has to traverse whatever on the internet it needs to get to the other end you're trying to talk to. Then come back to the satellite relay station, go back up 22,000 to 25,000 miles, and come back down that distance. So you've got nearly 100,000 mile round trip just to go to the satellite and back down, and then whatever it takes for the internet and back up to the satellite and back down. A round trip is at least 100,000 miles just for the satellite transition alone. Now, low Earth orbit is more like 180 miles up versus thousands. So you've got a round trip of around 360 miles versus 100,000 miles. So as you can see, the delay is going to be far less. And they're talking about putting up constellations of about roughly 800 to 1,000 satellites. And there's two different groups doing it. So you're talking a couple of thousand satellites The internet speeds are going to be probably gigabits per second. So divide that by 8 to get actual bytes. So again, the speed numbers are thrown out can be deceptive in Wi-Fi and everything else, because most information is actually transmitted in bytes. But by the same token, gigabit is way faster than what most people are used to. Most people are used to 1/10 of that, like 100 meg on a good day with cable internet. So think of a connection that's about 10 times as fast as your cable internet, and probably costing, given that it's going to blanket the entire planet from pole to pole with internet service, and all the customers that are going to come with that, and the economy of scale, you're probably talking about gigabit internet worldwide for on the order to $7 to $10 a month. All right, and this is probably coming down the pipe, probably 2022, 2024, somewhere in that time frame. They're starting to launch satellites early in 19. So you'll see it start to come online like the end of 2019, early 2020, but it will really, they'll have most of the satellites up by the 2022 to 2024 time frame if things go as planned. And this should have telecommunications carriers shaking in their boots. It's a big deal. And then you have in the mobile world 5G coming out. And that's going to have way faster transmission speeds than 4G. And it's going to be pretty much everywhere, because they're going to have to put lots of little boxes in instead of a few thousand big cell towers all around the country, or maybe a few tens of thousands. They're going to have hundreds of thousands to millions of small boxes all over the place to get coverage, because the wavelength that they're using, the frequency that they're using, doesn't penetrate things like buildings and walls and light poles and stuff like that, as well as the frequencies they're using now. However, they're way faster, so they're going to put in lots more little boxes all over the place, but the speeds are going to go up, and there'll be connections everywhere. Whereas right now, and plus think about it, little boxes are going to be a lot cheaper, so for them to install. So they'll be able to do incremental upgrades to their networks and get an awful lot of those small units in, for the price of one cell tower. So that's really going to change things. So between mobile, 5G, and low Earth orbit satellite constellations that are bringing gigabit connections, you are going to see a massive change in internet connectivity worldwide, everywhere. And it's going to pretty much transform everything. Things that are barely possible now will be commonplace. And not to mention which, all those transmitters are going to have their own unique address, so GPS is going to be a little less dominant in location services, because each one of those little mobile connection boxes is going to have its own unique identifier. There will be no two with the same ID on the planet, because IP version 6. It has so many addresses available that you don't even want to try to comprehend the number of addresses, IP addresses, that come with IP version 6. So it is going to be huge. Really, 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 the next 10 years is going to be a major difference in connectivity, and that's where your real technological leaps are going to come from in the next decade or so. Processors, maybe they'll there'll be the next one on the radar after that happens. But I'm looking for processors to be much more of an incremental increase over the next 5 to 10 years. That's what I'm thinking. Keep in mind, I read an awful lot of tech articles and kind of like try to see trends. It's not just about what I know really well, like my certifications or the things that I've gone to school for. It's all the overall light depth reading gives me a sense of what's happening in these industries, and I tend to track that a bit, and quite a bit, and it's pretty cool. So next up, I'm kind of hoping to start next episode with segments on a story. I've been working on a couple of novels for a few years, just picking away at them here and there when I could. And I think I'm going to pick one of them up and try to maybe read segments of it on the show. I've got a kind of cool fantasy story that I'm working on, and I think what I'll do is I'll write little bits of it. I'll start with what I already have written and write little bits more, and maybe read segments of it on the show, and then paste transcripts into the show notes over at MidwesternGeek-and-Cali.com on the blog. If you don't visit MidwesternGeek-and-Cali.com, you're kind of missing out if you just look at the YouTube channel, because I have a lot of show notes there, usually links to articles, things that I'm talking about on the show that really can help you, both visualize and get more in depth on some of the stuff I'm talking about if you're interested in it. So I'd encourage you to stop by and take a look, peek around, maybe hit a follow link there, so that you get notified when I pop a new episode up with all the links and stuff included. You'll still need to come to YouTube or go to the blog to watch the video, because if it shoots an email to you, if you subscribe by email, it won't carry the video in the email. That's the current setup I have isn't technically capable of bringing the email through, bringing the video through an email. But you'll get everything else, all the show notes that go with it, and then you can just kind of click on it, go to the blog, and watch the video there, or you can come to the YouTube channel and watch it there. Either or. So I don't hear back from a lot of people, and I'm really right now sitting at about 11 subscribers. If you're catching this on a random, I'd really appreciate a subscribe. That would help. I hope you folks like what I'm doing out there. I know not everybody does all the time, but yeah, we got to agree to disagree on occasion, just say, but for the most part, I'm trying to bring you guys stories that I think are going to be important for the future, things that are going to be fun, and things that are interesting, and hopefully make life better for all of us in a lot of different ways. So that being said, I'm also doing something here. I've done an ebook. I've written poetry online for years. You've seen me read a little bit of it here and there on the show, and I just finished a chapbook I've been picking away at for a long time. It's called The Great Book of Blizzard, and here's the cover of it. Let's see if I can get it at an angle here that doesn't glare out in the camera. Anyway, it's available in ebook, and I am donating it to public domain. I'm one of those folks that believes in science, and I see an awful lot of scientists, like something on the order of 97%, saying we've got man-made climate change. In any case, I see weather changing from what it was when I was a youngster, and whatever is the cause of it, I believe the climate is changing, and I wanted to capture in poetry what it was like to have real winters, to live with snow and lots of it, to live with ice, to have the kind of feelings, the almost the introspection and like being indoors, and the kind of hushed and toned down and more restful kind of state that winter usually is in a lot of ways. It's hard to describe, but I'm a way better writer than I am a speaker. So if you get a chance, I'll put a link for the PDF file up on the blog at www.midwesterngeekandcali.com. I'm donating this to public domain. I'm making it available to libraries. I may be putting it up on Amazon, but you can download the whole thing for free. Not a cent. Yeah, I'm not charging anything for it. This is kind of my gift to humanity. Uh, it's a way to remember what we have and what we may be giving up, and if not, it's some fun poetry in either regard, and it's free. So, if you can go ahead and grab that off the site, and as soon as I get the episode published with show notes, which should be a little bit later this evening, it'll be there for you to download and read at your leisure. So, on that note, I'm going to call it a night. Go check out the next episode of Supernatural. Thank you for listening and spending time with me. And as always, happy Vulcan fingers to you from the Agent of 42. And may there never be a rogue wave in your coffee mug. And may the sun shine always when you need it. And you can find us at www.midwesterngeekandcali.com, Midwestern Geek and Cali on YouTube, at Midwest Geek Cali on Twitter, and Facebook discussion group Midwestern Geek and Cali. And thank you for listening. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you next time. This was episode 76, wrapping up.